is one of those albums that I've been waiting for, which has turned out to be exactly what I was expecting, which in this case is a pretty good thing. Hi there everyone, welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawwalker, your host, and today we're going to be checking out this new album from another band that I may or may not be able to pronounce the name of correctly, Yves Tumor. This new record is a mouthful. It's called Praise a Lord Who Chews But Which Does Not Consume, or simply Hot Between Worlds. I've been really excited to see where this band goes since I saw them open for Nine Inch Nails a few months ago. It was the first time I'd heard of Yves Tumor, and I thought they put on a pretty damn good set. So since then, I have been following along and have since checked out their back catalog. I am a big fan of Heaven to a Tortured Mind, and the Asymptomatical World EP I thought had some great cuts and ideas despite not being my favorite. And so I had kind of assumed that this new album, Praise a Lord, or I guess Hot Between Worlds, that we would see a lot of the ideas previously employed, really lush and full pop production paired with a more close to the chest, modern Trent Reznor style of production. And I say this all as purely speculation, but with these guys having gone on the road with Nine Inch Nails, I'm fairly positive that some collaboration in production probably went into this record in a similar fashion to Halsey's 2021 album, If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, but maybe in a less formal setting. I also have my suspicions because historically musicians that Trent tours with usually end up with some bleed over, be it David Bowie or even more obviously Marilyn Manson. And I know that was low-hanging fruit because he was on Trent's label, but you get the point. By no means am I pointing this out as a bad thing, I just think it's a fair observation to make because a lot of the tracks on this new album not only feel more natural and more mature in progression for Yves Tumor, but there's a lot of very Reznor and Atticus Ross style slow, more methodical writing and production choices that have been made on this album in comparison to the last couple of releases that these guys have put out. So how does that bode for this record? Pretty well overall. I think there's a lot of credit due for just how far ahead these guys have jumped creatively on this release. I do still think there are songs that I am not as into here in this collection of tracks. However, by no means does it feel like anything was meant as patter. There are moments where songs comfortably slow and simplify the formula as a way to build tension, which usually is pulled off pretty well. And during the moments where this album is really pushing for a big, showy chorus, they land it, like on the track Meteora Blues, which is this big, anthemic track, which makes me feel like they developed the idea of the track Jackie off of the Asymptomatical World and ran that idea to its logical conclusion. Actually, a lot of what's here is a clear development on that last EP, naturally, ditching some of the more long-winded ideas in favor of a more focused and consistent experience with enough variety to keep things interesting. God is a Circle is a pretty solid opening track, very immediately an indicator of the direction this album is going. Lots of very post-punk influenced bass work. The samples of very heavy breathing give the track a feeling of being on edge, while the vocals help push a lot of the really minimal but tweaky guitars. Lovely Sewer, again, very post-punk heavy framework for this song, though compared to the last track, this one is a lot floatier. The varied vocal work between the highs and lows are light and pretty, for lack of a better word. Meteora Blues starts with this really great, twangy guitar strumming, which personally I am a big fan of, very reminiscent of Union Canal Blues by Chris Connolly. Maybe not an intentional pull, probably not actually, but I love this kind of thing. And the way this song unfolds is great. It's like an almost mid-2000s rock track, but done way more tastefully. This is by far my favorite track on the album. The interlude here, post-Meteora Blues, is quiet. There's some nice choir work here that is very subdued and helps give more dynamics to the tracks that follow. Parody is this very light, sort of mellow R&B or funk track at its root, very, very bluesy with some great driving fuzz on the guitars. The vocals are layered really well here, and the guitar solo work on this track is just top-notch. Heaven Surrounds Us Like a Hood, I find, for me, doesn't land super well, as a lot of what's here feels like a continuation of the last track, but with less of a feeling or idea of where to go. It's really one of the only moments on the record where it feels like the focus is a bit lost, and I suspect that's because this is one of the longer songs here. Operator does recover pretty quickly, again touching heavily on post-punk writing. I do think this sort of pep rally cheerleading thing this song breaks for in the middle a couple of times is fun, but maybe is a little on the nose. In Spite of War has this really off-kilter beat that I think is pretty fresh. Not one of my favorite cuts here, but I do think this one has some pretty clever change-ups, and the performances here are very tight. Echolalia, I think that's how you say it, at first listen was not a track that I was super into, but going through it a few times, it very quickly catches you with just how well done the vocal production is here. There's a lot going on in how everything is layered. Reminds me a lot of She's Gone Away by Nine Inch Nails. Fear Evil Like Fire, as well as Purified by the Fire, almost feel linked past just the naming scheme, with Purified by the Fire being an instrumental follow-up to Fear Evil Like Fire. Both tracks are some pretty strong material, but I feel like the final track, Ebony Eye, really outshines both songs here. This track comes out swinging right from the start. Love the string work here. I am a big fan of the abrupt but sensible change-ups here. Lots of great varied vocal work. As far as a closing track goes, this is very solid. I do feel like most of this album is well worth the time. There are some moments where things don't necessarily land super well for me, but by no means does this ever feel like a thoughtless record. This is a very calculated album, and I think overall it's pretty great. Praise a Lord Who Chews but which does not consume, or simply Hot Between Worlds, is a very good 7. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this album in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out my Instagram, my Reverb, and my Depop. Links to all of those are in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching again. We'll see you on the flip side.